When my dad told this story, nobody believed it. I tell it for him. See, when he was 12 years old, he had the opportunity to become a man on his brother-in-law's dry farm, where he raised cattle and he raised dirt, because they didn't irrigate, they just let it rain when it wanted to. And he hauled hay, and he moved cows, and he did that whole Canada thing that we heard about earlier. He did all that stuff at the age of 12 to become a man. But the one thing his brother-in-law wouldn't let him do was run the canyon run. He let him ride the fence. The rest of the time, get on the horse, ride along the fence, find a hole, fix it. But he wouldn't let him run the canyon run. And my dad would notice that when they went on the canyon run, in their saddlebags they'd have fishing poles. And they'd have their rifles. And sometimes they'd take their shotgun and ski, and he knew that they were doing more than fixing fence on the canyon run, and he begged and he pleaded to go on the canyon run. Finally, his brother-in-law gave in and said, okay, you can come. But the reason why we haven't let you come before is because it's a dangerous ride. There are parts of the trail going through the canyon where the trail is just wide enough for a horse to walk on. And it's 100 feet down on one side, 100 feet up the other way. There's no place to go. And there's wild animals up there. There's coyotes and bears that'll eat you. So that you're coming, you have to stick right with me. And my dad, when he got on the horse with his fishing pole and his rifle and he was going to go on the canyon run, he made sure his horse's nose was right in his brother-in-law's horse's tail the whole time. He stayed close. And when they went up there and got on that rise, where that path was narrow, he looked out over the valley and it was beautiful. He was falling in love with this canyon ride. And when they got to the top, yeah, there was a pasture, but there was also a fishing hole, and he caught some fish. And they shot some targets. And he had one of the best days of his life. And then he was kind of relaxed. He hadn't seen any wild animals other than the fish he caught. And so he was kind of relaxed. And as they were riding back, he noticed as they were entering the canyon again, there was a big rock off to the side. And he went up to that rock and he got down off his horse and he noticed that written on that rock in paint were the names of everybody who'd ever been on the canyon run and the year they were there. He found his brother-in-law's names and his cousin's names and his brother-in-law's great-grandfather's name way back 80, 90 years ago. And he said, I'm going to bring a piece of paint next time I come and put my name on this rock. And when he went to get off on his horse, he noticed he was alone. They'd all ridden on without him. And he started remembering those wild animals. And he got on his horse and he was trying to encourage it to go along, but his horse was really nervous. And they were getting up onto that shelf, and it was just narrow enough for a while that his horse was just barely able to walk, but the horse wasn't walking. It was kind of jerking and pulling and getting real scared. And then it reared up all of a sudden and threw my dad right onto the trail, right flat on his back, and sprinted down the trail as fast as he could. And there my dad was, in the middle of this canyon he'd never been in before. Suddenly that view, that 100-foot drop wasn't pretty anymore. And that steep rise wasn't very pretty either. And he just saw that narrow trail and then he realized what had scared his horse. Up on the ledge, right above the trail, was a mountain lion. And it was down, and its muscles were tense, and its claws were flexed. And it jumped at my dad. Instinctively. From out of nowhere, my dad jumped too, but instead of jumping backwards or running away, he jumped forward at the mountain lion and did a roll in front of the mountain lion, jumped right over the top of it. And he turned and looked, that mountain lion came to a skid and halt on that trail and turned and faced him again and flexed and jumped a second time. So my dad jumped the second time. He jumped forward and rolled, and that mountain lion jumped right over the top of him again, jumped right back up on that ledge. And then that mountain lion jumped a third time. And my dad jumped the third time. And he rolled, and that mountain lion jumped right over the top of him a third time. And then the mountain lion ran away. My dad looked up, and there was his brother-in-law charging on his horse with his rifle out. He'd seen the mountain lion, but he hadn't seen what had happened. And my dad ran up to him and explained to him, the mountain lion jumped at me, the mountain lion jumped at me. And his brother-in-law said, we got to go after that mountain lion. Mountain lion's jumping at kids, so we can't have him around. So they went hunting. They tracked that mountain lion. They tracked him over a hill, and as they looked down into the valley, they saw the mountain lion. And he was flexing and getting ready to go, and he'd jump, and halfway through the jump, he'd fall on his face and roll around in the dirt. And then he'd pace and growl, and he'd get up and he'd flex again. And he'd jump, and halfway through the jump, he'd fall down on the dirt. Get his face all dirty, and he'd growl, and he'd pace. My dad's brother-in-law looked at him and said, "What is that mountain lion doing?" And my dad looked at him and said, "Isn't it obvious? He's practicing short jumps."